Welcome, dear friends, to a thrilling voyage through time as we explore the fascinating history of British ships. From the mighty galleons of the age of exploration to the warships that shaped world history, Britain's naval legacy is one of innovation, power, and adventure. For centuries, the sea has been Britain's greatest ally, enabling exploration, trade, and military dominance. How did early wooden ships evolve into the steel giants of the modern era? What role did legendary vessels play in shaping history? Today, we will uncover the engineering marvels, daring voyages, and fierce battles that defined Britain's maritime past. Through expert insights, historical accounts, and stunning reconstructions, we will bring to life the ships that carried explorers to new worlds, defended the nation's shores, and revolutionized naval warfare. Set sail with us as we embark on a journey through time, tracing the evolution of British ships and their enduring impact on the world. This is Time Stream, and our maritime adventure begins now.
The history of English ships is a rich and fascinating journey that reflects the rise of England as a global maritime power. From simple wooden vessels used in medieval times to the powerful warships of the British Empire, English ships have played a crucial role in exploration, trade, warfare, and national identity. In the early medieval period, English ships were mainly small, clinker-built vessels used for coastal navigation and fishing. These ships, influenced by Viking designs, were often powered by oars and sails and were suitable for the shallow rivers and rough seas around the British Isles. The Norman invasion of England in 1066 also introduced new shipbuilding techniques, particularly the use of large transport ships known as knoz and cogs for carrying soldiers and cargo. During the Tudor period, 1485 to 1603, English shipbuilding underwent a major transformation. Under King Henry VIII, the Royal Navy was established, and the first purpose-built warships were constructed. One of the most famous ships of this time was the Mary Rose, a heavily armed carrack that served as a symbol of England's growing naval ambitions. With advances in ship design, including stronger hulls and more powerful cannons, English ships began to dominate European waters. The Elizabethan era saw a golden age of English seafaring, marked by exploration, privateering, and the fight against Spanish dominance at sea. Famous ships such as the Golden Hind, captained by Sir Francis Drake, circumnavigated the globe and brought great wealth and prestige to England. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, led by English ships and skilled sailors, confirmed England's naval strength and established a tradition of maritime pride. In the 17th and 18th centuries, English ships became the foundation of the British Empire. Merchant ships and naval vessels expanded global trade networks and supported colonization across Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The East India Company, with its fleet of trading ships, played a key role in England's economic expansion. At the same time, warships such as ships of the line became central to British naval supremacy. Naval power was essential in conflicts like the Anglo-Dutch Wars, the War of Spanish Succession, and the Napoleonic Wars. By the 19th century, the age of sail gave way to steam-powered ships, revolutionizing naval and commercial shipping. The British Royal Navy, with its powerful ironclads and steamships, remained the most dominant force at sea. English shipbuilding centres such as Portsmouth, Liverpool, and Newcastle became world-renowned for their innovation and production capacity. The legacy of English ships is still visible today in museums, historic docks, and maritime traditions. From wooden galleons to iron warships, English vessels have shaped not only the nation's history but also the course of world events. In summary, the history of English ships reflects a story of innovation, ambition, and global influence. Through centuries of exploration, conflict, and trade, English ships have sailed into history as icons of maritime excellence.
Hi, my name is Giovanni Longo. born in Italy, in Venice, and I'm passionate about ships. I graduated in University of Italy with my Master Science in Naval Architecture and Marine Engineer. I worked in Milan and then I moved to UK to work as a consultant in London. I'm curious about the history and how the things are created, and since I moved here, I've been curious and trying to learn as much as possible of the UK British history of the ships and the evolution they have done since the early remaining we found. So I can tell you the introduction about the ship histories in the British history. We can start from the Ice Age, when retreat of about 12 to 13,000 years ago and detached the British land from the European continental shelf, became an island. So everything from the migration to the trades has been done with the ships. All the earlier remainings are like a kind of speculation. We don't know about much of the type of ships were used or kind of vessels they were using at that time. But some theories are as small remains traceable at that time. We can say that time the early type of ship or vessel we could find is a kind of log with a hole. So one person, probably maximum two, could go and carry a small quantity of goods. This type of vessel were not really useful for seaworthy, so they couldn't cross, for example, the channel. So most of the things were coming between the different parts of UK through inland waterways. The remainings are not available so much in all UK. Some parts, like a remaining of some log boats, were found, and some technology also was found, but not the entire piece of a ship. So we couldn't. There are some remains of kind of log boats, but also in the same time a different small boat that was like kind of circular and called coracles, used by one man with one paddle, able to move through the rivers. But that was really small. It's like 1 meter long max, 2, and then it was just for small movement mostly to cross some lakes and river, for example, at that time. Going late prehistoric, we come to the Neolithics, and the Neolithics, there was like this dug-out canoes. They were like a piece of tree, like oak tree, dug out, and they were making enough space to carry a few people. Some of them, they were quite long, and some of them are like able to use only paddles, not sails or not any other type of propulsion. Then we came to the first evidence of this type of plank boat, where discovered some remains of this 12-meter long boat with a proper kind of hull shape with a tramson, which is a specific ending of the hull at the back of the ship. So, and it was supposed to be more aerodynamic. So the technology were progressing to be more reliable, faster, and more energy efficient. Come to the Iron Age, where there are some description from some text that Caesar did it when start to encounter some ships in the North Atlantic, when the Romans were start to invade, especially the North France with the Gaelic, and some description were translated, and they were saying that Caesar saw this big boat, mostly Gaelic, sailing the sea, the open seas, and they were different rigged from the one the Romans were doing in Mediterranean, and mostly these ships from Gaelic technology, they were having like a high bows to make sure that they were able to withstand the heavy seas they were encountering during the voyages, especially in the South Atlantic. About this type new technology the Roman gained from the Gaelic, we could find only 3 remains in all UK, although after 460 years of Roman conquered and stayed in UK, there are not many things left. So these 3 are kind of remains that we were able to find early 1900 during the excavations, and these all three were mostly in London. One is in it was described during construction excavation for building in Southwark. One is a Bermondsey and one is a Blackfriars. So now we can go to the post-Roman era, where all the ships evolution came from a Roman and Gaelic technology, and now all the things are a little bit changing because UK is going to be influenced also from other population, especially the Nordic country like Viking and Saxons. Bristol becomes also a good important center for trading, and now we are coming back to the Norman conquest, where most of the ships were part as a clinker build. They were an evolution from the Sutton Hoo vessel they found. Then the Norman invasion on 1066 brought another type of ships that were able to carry a lot of men and horses too, in order to conquer and use as a military scope. From the Norman conquest, that was the only available resource we had, but still other small type of ships could have been used like for ferries crossing and small log boats in order to travel between different parts of the UK. And then after the Norman conquest, we start to see the medieval and the early Tudor age time that was seeing a lot of trades of goods, but also warfare. In this environment, the ships became bigger, became more powerful, not only in transporting goods, but also in having heavy cannons on board and able to go to war and fight the other enemies in the open seas. Also during the medieval, we can see the introduction and most of the use of the sails. So a lot of these ships were able to use the wind power to propel the ship for faster and longer voyages. A proof was that Christopher Columbus in 1492 could reach America only on a wind propulsion, which makes these ships already ocean-going ships able to carry passengers and goods for months out in sea and reach a longer distance than ever before. And then from the warship point of view, there was a huge expansion of these war galleys. They were basically built with multiple decks, and these decks were able to carry heavy guns, or mostly cannons. An example was the Mary Rose, built in 1500, where she was able to carry about 100 of heavy guns and cannons in order to have the most power on the seas and able to fight the enemies of the England. And then after the Stuart, around the 17th century, we can see the ships becoming bigger and bigger, reaching almost more than 1,000 tons in displacement. With the first industrial revolution and the steam engine invention, we start to see some of the ships taking advantage of this new technology. Although early use of this technology, especially steam propulsion, was limited to only a few ships, and these ships were only able to use a paddle propulsion, because at that time the propeller was not yet invented. This came later, and with the propeller the ships could improve the performance, going faster and reach longer distances. One of these examples is the Great Britain built by Brunel, that was able to reach in one voyage the Australia, and however the steam propulsion was still not 100% reliable as we know today, so the ships were still having a capacity to use the wind, so they still have sails and mast able to use during the wind when was the wind available and the steam was not possible to use. With the advance of technology and the steam becoming more popular, then the ships start to use more and more this technology until the invention in early 1900 of the diesel engine, which was breakthrough of the nowadays technology that we are still using today. Instead of using coal and steam, we are using combustion engine, which are able to provide a huge amount of power compared to the size of an entire steam engine system. With the Second World War, we start to see the first nuclear ships built after the use of atomic bomb. And nowadays we have this type 2 propulsion, which is the diesel and a nuclear power that are able to propel our ships nowadays. From the UK point of view, it still remains a sea-linked nation, because it's still an island, the UK, and still have a lot of commerce coming from the Asia and the rest of the world. A lot of containerized cargo, cars, everything is being transported to UK.
The story of English ships is a powerful reflection of the nation's evolution, militarily, economically, culturally, and politically. From their earliest beginnings as modest wooden vessels navigating coastal waters to becoming symbols of global empire and innovation, English ships have shaped not only the course of national history but also influenced the broader maritime heritage of the world. Throughout the centuries, English shipbuilding adapted to changing needs, technologies, and ambitions. In medieval times, ships were primarily tools for trade and local travel. However, with the growth of the monarchy and national identity, ships became central to asserting power and defending the realm. The establishment of the Royal Navy in the Tudor era marked a turning point, transforming England into a formidable sea power. This shift was not only about military strength but also about exploration and expansion. The great voyages of discovery during the Elizabethan period revealed the full potential of English seafaring. Figures like Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh used their ships not only to explore unknown parts of the world but also to challenge dominant maritime powers like Spain. These early expeditions laid the groundwork for what would become the British Empire. During the 17th and 18th centuries, English ships carried trade goods, colonists, soldiers, and culture across the globe. The success of institutions like the East India Company depended entirely on the strength and reliability of English ships. Merchant fleets grew larger and more sophisticated, navigating vast oceans and creating connections between continents. At the same time, the Royal Navy became the backbone of national defense and imperial power, winning decisive battles and controlling crucial sea routes. The Industrial Revolution brought about another transformation in English maritime history. Traditional wooden sailing ships gave way to steam-powered iron vessels, drastically improving speed, range, and cargo capacity. This era witnessed not only an increase in global trade but also the modernization of the Royal Navy, which continued to uphold Britain's status as the world's leading naval force well into the 20th century. In modern times, although England is no longer the maritime superpower it once was, its legacy lives on. Historic ships like HMS Victory and the Cutty Sark have been preserved as national treasures. The techniques, traditions, and innovations of English shipbuilding have influenced naval engineering around the world. The discipline, navigation skills, and strategic thinking developed through centuries at sea are still taught and admired today. English ships symbolize more than just vessels of wood and steel. They represent exploration, resilience, ambition, and ingenuity. They helped define an era when the sea connected the world and when naval power was the foundation of influence and prosperity. In conclusion, the history of English ships is not just a chronicle of maritime progress, but a deep and enduring part of the nation's identity. It is a story of how a small island nation built a mighty global presence, one ship, one voyage, and one innovation at a time.
As we conclude our journey through the history of British ships, we are reminded of the vital role they played in shaping the world. From the daring voyages of explorers to the battles that defined empires, these vessels were more than just ships, they were symbols of power, innovation, and resilience. Though times have changed, Britain's maritime legacy continues to inspire. The echoes of great ships still resonate in museums, naval traditions, and the stories passed down through generations. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating voyage. Until next time, keep exploring the seas of history. This is Time Stream, see you next time.